Anine, say go. Hello everyone, and welcome to our DIY welcome sign video. So everyone would have received their kit, and in your kit you would have found a roll of twine, a piece of burlap, a small tube of crazy glue, a flower. So these four things we're actually going to set aside because these are going to be something that we are going to use towards the end of everything. The most important things that you received, other than your 5-foot piece of stained wood, are going to be the papers that look like this. So you should have 2 pieces of paper with red grid lines. These are what we would call transfer paper or transfer tape. So you have 2 pieces of this, and then you also have 2 pieces of white vinyl. If you look really closely at your vinyl, you'll see that there are some letters that have already been cut, as well as some stars and things like that. So this white vinyl is what you're actually going to get started with. So you can set everything aside for now, or back into your bag. We're going to keep our transfer tape handy, and we're actually going to start working with these letters. So for the purpose of the video, I went ahead and cut some letters on this black vinyl just so that it's a little bit easier for you to see, and you can already see there's an O here, and there's the outline of an M and the E, as well as some stars, and then there's another letter down at the bottom. The white doesn't make it that easy to see. So the first thing we're going to do is find a corner piece that we can peel off the vinyl. And I know you can't really see this up close right now, and that's okay because I'm having a hard time getting in here. There we go. All right, so you just keep playing with it until you can get a small piece like this. Now, if you touch the back side of this, you're gonna see that it's really sticky. So we're gonna slowly start to peel away the vinyl, and what it should do is leave our stars and our letters there. Now, when you're peeling, you want to be very careful that the sticky part doesn't roll back and catch on itself, because if it does, it's going to be very sticky. So I would roll it off like this, gently, of course, because here you could see around the E, I did get a little bit of resistance, and that's just happening because it's trying to give us the parts that are around the letters. Now, I'm feeling like this is getting to be a little long, and I really don't want to have it get stuck. So I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors, and I am going to cut these parts off. Because like I said, the last thing I want to do is have it get stuck on itself and possibly tear parts away that we don't really want it to. Move that over there. So now I'm gonna start over here with my M, recognizing again that there is going to be some resistance, and we're just gently going to get in there to peel those away. There we go. That's what your white piece of paper should look like. Now there's this little part of the O here that we need to get out. So if you just bend ever so slightly, you'll be able to get that O, the center of that O, and just peel that off as well. All right, so you might be wondering what these stars are for, and these are what I would call registration marks. They look like they're randomly placed, but I promise They're really not. There's a whole method to the madness here. So now that you have your letters like looking like this, there's two ways we can go about this, and it's going to be up to you with personal preference. You can choose to either peel off this whole piece of contact paper and then stick it on. Personally, that's not the way that I would go about doing it. Only because I just don't like the risk that comes when we're trying to roll the entire sheet out. So what I'm going to do is start to cut these letters. Now, you can see that there's 2 stars, 2 stars, 2 stars, and for your L, there's another 2 stars. I'm going to start by cutting out my L, and I'm going to make sure that this star stays with it. And I'm going to just cut around ever so carefully so that ultimately this is what I have as my L. And then I'm going to cut the rest of them, the E, the M, and the O, keeping the star above and below. Like so. You can continue to go ahead and do this with the other letters, the other sheet of vinyl that you have, making sure again that your stars stay with you. Once you have them all cut out, there are going to be 2 letters that only have a 1 star. So I'm just going to move these down for a second, and I'm going to grab my other letters that I already have cut out for the purpose of the video. So these are white letters, similar to what yours look like. So here is my W and an E that only has 1 star. So that's going to be the last E. So we have our W, our E, our L, our C. I'll move these out of the way now. Our O, our M, and our E. Now, there should be a little star down here on the bottom of that W, which seems to have come off, and that's okay. You're going to want to make sure that your E is, or your star is still there. Ultimately, these are what my letters look like once I have them cut out. So go ahead, take some time, cut those out. You can pause the screen here if you'd like, just to keep an eye on what needs to stay with what. And once you have everything cut out, push start, and we'll get back to the rest of the video. Okay, so now that we've got all of our letters and everything peeled, you're going to start using your wooden board. So the reason why you have a green piece of tape at the top or on one side of your board is because that is the side that you're going to be putting your letters on. The reason for that is this particular side has been sealed already multiple times, and we seal it so that the letters or the vinyl will stick better to the sealed side. Now, one of the things I want to make sure that we all do, because it's very easy to get confused, is find your E and your W that each have the 1 star. Set your E aside. Now we're going to place these in order of spelling. So I've got my W, my E, my L, C, O, M, and the final letter, the E with the 1 star. I'm going to stack those like so. The last thing we want is to misspell our welcome word just because we didn't have them stacked properly. All right, so we have this 5-foot long piece of wood. Now you are going to have room to leave a good decent sized chunk at the top and then a decent sized chunk at the bottom. The reason why is because eventually we'll decorate the top with some of those other items that we have gone ahead and set aside. So this part I'm just going to explain, but then I am leaving it up to you to decide how and where exactly you want your letters. I know for myself, I want to leave about this much space at the top if it's possible. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to lie down the letter W. I want to make sure that everything fits, and I want to have a visual of what it's going to look like before I actually stick my vinyl letters right onto the wood. So when I said something about the stars before, and I mentioned that they're called registration marks, you can choose to leave these stars on your design or you can remove them. The reason why we have these stars is so that there is really no math or measuring that needs to happen. I've already pre-measured everything. That's how I know that this is all going to fit onto the board, regardless of how you choose to place it. Now, we want this top star to match with the bottom star, like so. We're going to continue to do that all the way down the board until we decide, or sorry, not until we decide, but just to see how long the word is going to stretch down across our board. Now I have this out on my table so that I can slide it across. It might be something that you either lie down on the ground or lean up against the wall if you want to use some tape. I'm just going to keep it on the table so that I can slide it back and forth pretty easily to show you what I'm doing. So I still have my one letter left, which is the last E. And what I'm seeing, and I'm going to show you in a second, is that at the bottom of my board, I now only have this much space. And I don't want to leave that little of space. Thankfully, I haven't actually stuck these down onto my board yet. So I've got this little space at the bottom. If I slide this down again, I've got quite a bit of space left here at the top. Now, if I'm going to use my burlap strip, which I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can use the extra items that were in your kit, and this is how you will make your sign personal to you. In the event that I was going to use this, I personally would probably, let's get this green tape out of the way, just so we have a good visual. I would probably try to put it about here. So I've got a little bit of space above, and I would leave a little bit of space below, which means I can move my letters up to about there. And I'm feeling pretty comfortable that way. I could move this down if I needed to. So I'm just using this as a example of how much space to potentially leave across the top. And you may decide to not even use these extra items that were provided in the kit. You may have something else around the house that you would like to use. So now, with that measurement there, I'm going to move and shift everything upwards again so that I have a good idea of where and how much space everything is going to take. So if I move these ever so slightly up, now I've got a decent size chunk at the bottom as well. And I'm okay with that chunk at the bottom because I can also put something down here as well. So if I decided to use this burlap strip across the bottom, I could still place it here and have enough room, because again, the bottom is going to be what sits on the ground. So I'm not personally really stressed about how much extra space is here. So now that I've got my spacing figured out, you can go ahead and do the same. Take your time with this step. Everybody is going to have their own personal preferences, But again, the key is going to be lining up your stars. And once we have that part figured out, we'll be able to move on to the next step. So go ahead, take some time, figure this piece out, and once you have decided how you want to lay them out, just leave them lying like this on your board. Now that we've figured out our spacing, we're going to start placing our letters onto transfer tape. I have to admit this is probably my least favorite part of the process, but it's okay. So I'm going to take my W, and to save some of the transfer paper, I am going to trim around just to make it a little smaller and easier to work with. You'll see that I'm going to eventually do this with every one of my letters. Just set that stuff aside. So now I know that I need roughly this much space for my transfer tape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut along these lines, which is the nice thing about this transfer tape. It's got the grid on it, which I like just because it helps me to figure out my numbers. All right, here we go. I'm going to set my W down like this. Upside down, I guess it looks like an M. We're going to find that corner piece just like we did when we were weeding our letters. And we're going to strip a piece over like this. So once you've got it opened up a little like this, take just the top and separate just the top part from the bottom. And what we're going to do is place this over top of the W. The top is the widest part of the W, so as long as we've got it spaced out over the top, we should be okay. Now you can already see that I've got some bubbles, which I definitely do not want. So I am going to gently roll this other hand as I pull the sheet of paper. Like so. So this is what it eventually looks like. As you can see, I've only got part of my star on this, and that should be okay. I'm not going to worry too much about that. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to trim around the edges again, because anything that is extra sticky causes a bit of a danger for us. Now your scissors should just slide right through there. So there we have our W. You're going to take each letter as you do this, and you're going to run your fingers over top of transfer tape. You can use the side of your finger. You could use a bank card, a driver's license, a health card. Sometimes even the handle of the scissors work well. Now we're going to start to peel this back. If you notice that your W is not coming off with it, just go back over that corner. And there you can see it starting to come off. So again, gently, here it's not coming off. So I'm going to stop for a minute, give it a little rub, start to peel back again. And over here we're noticing that that side of the W here is not ready. So stop again, give it a little rub and pull on down. Now there's the W, but I want to make sure I'm getting this star as well, and perfect. There we go. Now I'm going to move my board over to me, like so, recognizing that I had these lined up the way I wanted them to be already. So I have to match this bottom or this top star with where that E is going to be. Now that I've got that set, I slide this out of the way, press that star down, and very carefully remove my fingers and place the W onto the board. We'll use our scissor handle again, repeat that process. You should start to see when you're pressing hard enough that the color of that contact paper will change ever so slightly, which is perfect because that's how we know that we've pushed it down hard enough. Now, all we're going to do is repeat the process. Gently pulling back on the grid paper or the transfer tape. Again, remember to do this slowly because you want to be watching to see if any of your edges are peeling up. They shouldn't, as long as you're working on the side that had that green piece of tape stuck to it. Again, that's the side that we made sure to have sealed multiple times, allowing the transfer tape to stick, or the vinyl to stick. So there we've got our first letter. So really all we're going to do now is continue to complete the process, and we can go ahead and keep doing that now. I'm sure there are easier ways to do this. Some of you may choose to do all of your letters at once you've gotten that W down, because now we know that as long as our stars are matching up, we're good. That's more than likely the way that I'm going to do it. Just get them all onto the transfer tape at once and then switch them over. So I'll keep recording, but again, you can choose to do this whatever way that you like. I will keep recording, but I will speed it up so that you can kind of see how it's going, and we'll go from there. So there is one thing I want to caution everyone about, and that is when you connect these top stars, we need to definitely be making sure that we're going straight down so that we don't end up going crooked in our sign. So those two stars now are matched. If I turn this ever so slightly, it's going to make our entire design crooked. So I need to be extra careful that these are matching together properly. And then I am going to make sure that the bottom also stays aligned. And there we have all of our letters. So now for our top options. There's a couple different things you could do. You could decide to put a piece of burlap across the top, like this, if you wanted to. You could choose to wrap some twine around the top. You might even decide to attach your flower here. Once you've got the top figured out, don't forget to also decorate the bottom. Again, this is your opportunity to personalize your welcome sign and make it absolutely whatever it is that you want. I hope this video made sense and that your welcome sign turned out exactly how you envisioned it. Thanks so much for joining me today, and until next time, Ona!